wonderful afternoon and excellent evening for everyone in the world, wherever you may be watching this show. I am so excited to be here. I took last week off, but I'm back to normal this week. And we are talking about the present moment and finding that present moment, we find our real power in the world. And we'll be talking about that more as the show goes on. And I'm very lucky to have Jeanne and Raheen joining me again. I haven't seen them in a long time. And of course, Shivali has been here almost every day since Jeanne disappeared. So you all know Shivali if you have been hanging out. And of course, I am Carla, who started this show, and I hope you enjoy it. With that, I am going to pass the mic over to Jeanne so we can get this show on the road. Jeanne?
Excellent. And as usual, which you may or may not remember, I like to get quotes regarding our topic. And I start with Buddha, who said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." And that's really the essence of mindfulness. So I love this quote. And that's followed by a tried and true quote from Alice Morse Earle, who is a historian and a writer from way back in the last century. And she's the one who wrote, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That is why it's called the present." I love that. When I first heard that, I was like, I need to write that down, because it really does remind you that the past brings you to where you are today. We can worry as much as we want about the future, but it does no good. Today, in the present moment, is critical. And then the great American philosopher, Goldie Hawn, the actress, said, "Mindfulness can help people of any age. That's because we become what we think." It can be very deep when you start to ponder these things. So I love these quotes, specifically about being in the present. Raheen, as a representative of the next generation, how does being in the present work for you?
Really, I think for us as a generation, like a lot of times we're on social media and stuff, and like it's always like, you know, a joke and stuff, like before you eat anything, you got to take a picture before you do it. And I think again, I am pretty active on social media, and I'd say, okay, you know, if you have a platform and if that's the kind of thing you're into, to a certain extent, yeah, do it. But when you see a sunrise, a sunrise or like a sunset, like a beautiful moment, I think like leave the phone for a second. Do not like reach for it in your pocket and get a picture first and then focus on what you're really looking at. But I think really just look at it, take it in, feel it. And again, what your eyes can see, the camera can never really capture that. And then after that, after you've had your moment with it, then share it with others. So I think so you gotta prioritize your moment with things. And I know so many people that do not do that. And I think it's kind of sad.
It is sad. I love that you use the word prioritize there, because I mean there's a reason there's an old saw called "Stop and Smell the Roses," because we can zip through life, as Alice Earle mentions, we can zip through life by worrying about tomorrow and not paying attention to right here and right now. And no matter what the chaos is out there, and there's a lot of chaos throughout the world, when you stop and manage those, and not manage, but actually experience those special moments, that enriches you. And when you're enriched, you can enrich those around you. And you can manage the stress much better. You know, so being in the present is powerful for mental health, as well as, just as I said yesterday, health in general. I actually told somebody to take mental out of it. Mental health is health. Shivali, how does this ring with you?
Actually, for me, awareness is the key. Like you use the right word, zipping through. We zip through life and we don't even realize, we are just like, I feel, at least I have felt it, that, life is very mechanical at times, from morning till noon till night. And but if we just stop to think, how many times can we actually remind ourselves that are we aware of what's happening, in the present? I think that is something on which I have been working in my personal life, where I try to be aware of what is happening now rather than pondering and worrying about the past always, because the mind plays havoc at times. And the realization which has come to me is that all that matters is the present. Like, just thinking about the past, what could have been, it's just waste of time actually. And the maximum you can benefit from the past is what are the lessons you are learning, and what are your new ways of reinventing yourself. And for that, the power of now, for me, it's being in the moment, to be aware, even small things. Right now, when I'm speaking to all of you, when we are on this platform, that awareness has to be there. And when we are aware, we begin to listen. We listen to things around us. Things speak to us. And as far as time is concerned, time and space, this is all created by our mind. We all know this. So what matters is the present. For me, this is how I look at it.
It's very, very true. Yeah, I've been working with kids as a substitute teacher for the last couple of months. And when I'm with the little ones, the 5 and 6 year olds, you are reminded to be in the present, because kids demand attention and you have to pay attention. You can't go through life as a kind of like walking zombie, because they're right there. They're needing something. And if you don't give them the attention, they have ways to get it from you. My grandson, for example, who's 2.5, can command the whole room in one wail. He's in that stage where he's throwing temper tantrums, and everybody stops, and kind of looks at him. And it's amazing how he can grab the whole room. So you have to be aware. And it reminds me of a exercise that I did when I was trying to learn mindfulness. That word didn't quite resonate with me when I first heard it. It's like, mindfulness, what, work with my mind or what? And the teacher I was working with wanted me to just be aware. That's all it is. It's being aware. But there had been such a big rolling amount of pressure on how to be mindful. It was a big trend here in the United States. You have to be mindful, and we don't know how to do it. So I walk into this room and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And all she did, she gave us all oranges. And she said, smell this orange. Take a moment and just smell this orange. Now, take a peel. Now smell that. Bring it up to your nose and just breathe in deeply. And by the time that we were done peeling the orange and eating the orange and feeling the orange juice going down your chin and really paying attention, about 20 minutes went by. And then she said, you just did a meditation on oranges. And I was like, what? I was expecting some, big magic, and she said, this is what mindfulness is. Slowing down, being aware of this moment, and enjoying it for just that nanosecond, because it's gone. As Raheen, as you said, if you're watching a sunset, enjoy it, because you take the time to take the picture, it's not going to be quite the same. In fact, when I lived on the coast, we had this, I heard this thing, if you watch the sun and you keep watching the sun as it goes down, just as it hits the horizon, there's this mysterious green flash. And it's an optical illusion, of course, because the sun is kind of yellow the way that we see it, and the ocean is kind of blue. So of course, yellow and blue makes green, but it's the way that the sun shines down just as it's going under the horizon. So I would stare out my window at a sunset and just kind of stare at it, and I'd really be present because I'm looking for that little green dot. I want to see that mystery flash. It was a great exercise for me to remind myself to be here in the present. And with the chaos that we're seeing throughout the world, I think it's really important that we learn to be in the present. It's good for our health. It's good for our mental well-being to be in the present and to be thankful for what we have, because we can make order in our own little world. You know, I'm not sure that I can change the order in the bigger macro world, but I can change it in my world. And when we all take a minute to change the chaos into order in our own little worlds, we'd be amazed at how powerful we can be. You know, we can make a change, somebody else will make a change, and so on and so on. And pretty soon the whole world has changed. That's taking that one single step to be aware and to be mindful. Raheen, you're saying you're nodding?
Yeah, I'm nodding. And whenever I agree with something, I would nod. Like, I think like every other human being, like that is my thing.
Well, nodding is good. I was going to say, what does this bring up for you?
What?
What does this bring up for you?
How do you mean that? Kind of like rephrase it.
What I just said about making a change in your own world, adding, moving chaos to order, being present and mindful in your own world to make changes, and you can change, and then somebody near you might fall into line and change, and so on and so on. How do you see that?
I mean, for me personally, a lot of like my early childhood, I spent just kind of like, if I was out, when I'm thinking, oh, what's going to happen when I go home? When I was home, then when I'm going to go out again. So it's just like always the next thing. And it's kind of stopped to the at the point where my brother got cancer, and then I was away from my parents and all of that. So it's like, because I had nothing major to look forward to, I stopped doing that, and I realized that I need to live in the moment. But that is when that happened. But for me, sometimes in my life, like I had times in my life where like there were so many interviews and so many meetings and so many things going on like at once. And I really needed to, like, at the end of the day, like stop and kind of reflect on, wait, what just happened? I need to kind of process that. And I think a lot of times in this the world is very chaotic right now. And with just how we have all as individuals develop routines, even if that is not a chaotic one, we all have somewhat of a routine. And I think there you need some time for reflection of what is happening, some time for process. And I think that is what for me was the key to staying in the moment, to kind of just taking it all in and processing it and reflecting on it. And if you don't do that and just like, speed through life, and well, it's not life. Life is fun if you live it as you want to. So yeah.
Shivali, how about you?
Yes, the chaos thing. It really strikes me. Like I have experienced this so many times. Chaos is needed. Chaos is needed to find yourself, to create that awareness that chaos is needed. I don't know how to explain this. This is something which I have experienced so often, that, when I seem to get lost, totally lost, and overreacting to things, overthinking, and, like going down that, that rabbit hole of, just getting sucked into it. And then sudden that realization, when I have to remind myself, hold on, breathe, relax, calm yourself. And the moment I start doing it, I could be like, I love nature. and the place where I live, I can actually see the sun rising and things like that. For me, those moments, and yes, I could connect to that photography thing also, we are more interested in clicking the photographs rather than enjoying that. And in these moments, out of that chaos, that harmony that we are creating and that awareness, it may happen just for a split of a few seconds, and it leads to so much of peace, like it's all okay. And the second example that you gave about that orange, I remember in one of these satsangs we had this exercise of having the apple, chewing into it, tasting it, and it's kind of a meditation we are doing, because we are becoming aware, and then we transfer this kind of this way of doing things onto the other aspects of our life. The apple or the orange is just symbolic, actually, that it's all about creating that awareness. So the chaos is needed. And secondly, this I would like to add to this is that when a person says, I don't know what's happening, or the person says, I don't want to be in the moment, precisely the journey has begun. That person is actually becoming aware without even realizing it, that that person is actually connecting. And moment that connection is made, the clarity comes, the harmony is there, and all the complaints, there are no more complaints, and you start enjoying. I hope I've been able to explain this, because this is something which I think all of us, it's our experience. I was really overwhelmed by when you people were talking about it, Jeanne and like I could actually connect with it, and I still need to do it.
Well,
It's not like you'll achieve it in one day, and some miracle has happened, as Jean pointed out, and like you found something, the diamond or something. No, it's an ongoing process. This is what life is all about. This is what life is all about.
yeah, you're right. Chaos is needed. I think most of us don't want to think of chaos. If I listen to my friends and colleagues, but change begets chaos. If we don't change, if we don't grow, if we don't learn from something, we're going to be stagnant. But to change means mixing things up. I love the other. I should write a book just of quotes. I love the quote about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. You don't get different results without changing, and that means work. And good Lord, we work enough, right? I don't know about you guys in your countries, but in the United States, they really want us to work day and night. Since the pandemic, there's like, it's 24/7. It's an email. I sent you an email last night. Uh-huh. Well, you didn't answer. Uh-huh. Well, why are you just saying uh-huh? I wasn't working. And I get in trouble for saying that, but I really work on my balance. But that chaos is necessary. The sad point is that we don't pay attention to chaos until it's really negative. We're going through something right now in the US. We had a horrific incident last week where it was a shooter and 19 children were killed. I'm sure it's covered everywhere. It's awful, and everybody's up in arms and they're like, we got to change, we got to do something now. Well, yeah, we got to change. Yes, it's chaos. And until we do something different, it's going to be the same. And that's what we have to underscore when we want to grow, when we want to change, when we want to be better, we have to put the work in and make that change. And that's why I was not really arguing, but having, let's call it a bit of a heated discussion with somebody. And it was about mental health, because that seems to be the response from one side of the political spectrum, is this is about mental health and we're not doing anything about it. Well, yeah, you're right, but it's not about mental health. It's about so many other things. It's all part of the layers. But I was like, but stop. I literally want to tell you something. And he said, what? take mental out of it. There's no stigma in asking for help. There's no stigma in going to a therapist or a psychiatrist or whatever you end up doing for your mental health. It's health. And this young buck, was like, no. Health is like physical. It's your stomach. It's your head. I go, and really, you don't want to argue with me, especially when I'm feeling like talking to somebody. I was just like, no, because if I'm going into a mental health crisis, my head hurts. My stomach might be upset. I might have some aches and pains and not be able to get up. But if you deal with the mental side of it with your therapist or whoever you need to work with, you can power through that and it doesn't stop you. So it's all part of the same picture. We are walking chemistry labs. And he was like, oh, so I actually got him to think differently about it. But Raheen, you said something, and I'm going to first admit that Carla's looking like she wants to say something, so I'm going to turn it over to her in a minute.
Not quite yet. You can talk to Raheen, and I'll come back. I'll come in.
Raheen, you said something about taking time to process and to reflect on what's happening. That is extremely important, and that's a step that I know in my world, we don't honor. We don't make time for it. And so one of the things I've been telling the young kids in middle school that I was working with, the ones who are really rebellious and trying to get in your face and make sure that they're seen, even if it's negatively, I would say, during the summer, I ask you to do two things. And they said, what? I go, I ask you to read for 10 minutes. I don't care if it's on the internet, just read. Practice reading for 10 minutes. And the other thing I want you to do is pull out a piece of paper or a notebook and write for 10 minutes. Just write what's in your mind. Write what you're thinking about. We call it journaling, but just do it. You won't forget all the stuff that we fought so hard to get you to learn, but you will learn how to actually process your thoughts and your emotions. And they're like, oh, Mrs. A, you're full of it. I'm like, just try it. So I challenged them. And I say this out of experience because I still call journaling the J word. It's something I've mentally fought for a long time, to take time to actually reflect and process. So I want to acknowledge, Raheen, how wise that was. Carla, what's up with you, Mom?
We're letting Raheen answer.
I just wanted to say it's very true about processing and about chaos. It's a very necessary part of life, and it kind of is there to make you understand the fact that you need to get out of that whole thing, make changes to your life. And I think that is exactly why it's important. That's all I have to say. I'm actually very curious to hear what Carla has to say.
What did I say?
No, what you have to say, because you've been in the conversation. What's your take on it?
Well, my take is, even a minute ago is the past, and a minute later is the future. But we don't know. We know what happened in the past. And maybe someone spoke a little too long and I kind of said, let's move it forward. But it's over now. It doesn't matter. And what's happening in the future, that person may get mad at me and say, well, Carla, you're talking for more than you should be talking, and remember that. But if I worry about what's going to happen in the next minute, it takes me out of the present moment. And if I get concerned about upsetting someone, it also takes me from the present moment. all we have is this one moment now, and we need to cherish that moment. Worrying about the past, there's nothing you can do once you've said something, it's out there. And there's nothing you can do about the future. So all we have is this moment, and we may as well just be in the moment. My dog died last week. It was very difficult for me, and I needed to be in that moment of weirdness, dealing, oh, I don't have a dog to walk now. What am I going to do? I don't have to get up early and walk the dog. But worrying about when he was going to die didn't also allow me to cherish the last moments I had with him. So what is best? Worrying or regretting, or just being in this present moment? Raheen, you have been nodding the whole time. So
Actually moving my chair such that it looks like I'm nodding. That is why you guys think I'm nodding to everything. But it is very true, though. A lot of times when people would say, oh, being in the moment, like just being in the moment, it's usually, I think, or it's just me that thinks, that people think, oh, they're referring to the happy moments, right? Okay, it's your birthday, you're cutting the cake, it's a new year, it's a new beginning, be happy, be in the moment. But I think it's also by the moments of grief, moments that are sad moments. And I think it's equally as important being in the moment then to kind of process that and get over it and not let the whole weird feeling build up to the point where, you do end up having health issues. So yeah, I think it's important to kind of experience moments, process them, reflect on them, and just to a point where you reflect on them, not letting them get to your head for longer periods of time.
what do you need to say, Jeanne?
Well, I think that reminding ourselves to take a breath helps us get in the moment. And one of the things that I like to remind people when I see stress, I was like, take a deep breath. Literally, you can't be stressed when you're breathing deeply. We breathe up here shallowly, and that's breathing to live. That's the breathing we learned when we were babies. But in every mindfulness practice that I've ever experienced, they talk about breathing all the way down to the bottom of your gut. Well, they're actually talking about using all the lobes of your lungs and pulling in as much air as possible, which physiologically brings more oxygen into you, but it also moves you from thinking in that fight or flight, kind of stress way to the frontal lobe where it's more logical. And you really can't be in a moment of stress when you're taking a deep breath. And if you know that, then you're more likely to go. So picture this: I have a class of 7th graders, and they are just chaotic. Let's say they invented the definition of chaos. They got a substitute. Woohoo! And I made them all stand up and hands go up. We're going to breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to come down. 1, 2, put to the side to hold it, and then down when we let it out. And we kept doing that until I finally got them to calm down. And they're like looking at me like, what? I go, yeah, this is your yoga exercise for today. And we're going to do it every time you get out of control. It was just the simple act of breathing made them act differently. And so I went into the 1st grade and we taught them to breathe. It was like my go-to tool when I introduced myself. First, we're going to learn to breathe. And then when I say class, 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 we're going to take a deep breath. So I'm trying to teach the little ones. So by the time they become those 7th graders, they're so much easier to deal with. but just taking that deep breath, that helps us, and it does wonders for your mental clarity to get more oxygen into your brain and to think logically and not, emotionally and in fear. Take a deep breath. It's what I teach people when they're getting ready to speak in front of crowds of thousands. Take a deep breath. Look out at the crowd. Everybody wants you to be successful. Now speak. So it's a very powerful tool that we don't talk about too often. And yet we spend a lot of money trying to figure out how to be more relaxed. Carla, how many times have I told you to take a deep breath when we're talking?
Many times, and usually as you're saying it, I've already started doing it. But
Yeah,
that's
it's just a reminder.
Think for a moment. The breath is the only thing that we have constantly. It's the only thing that will settle us down and clear the mind out. Our minds are like monkeys. They're constantly jumping around and saying, this is good, that's bad, and blah, blah, blah. If we want to be happy and continue being happy, then we need to be attuned to who we really are. And beyond the thoughts is that place of silence. And in that silence, you come to that quiet place that tells you, oh, your thoughts are correct in this direction. You find out what you like and what you don't like, and how to move forward in them. Shivali, do you have anything to say?
Yes, definitely. What Jeanne has pointed out, I could connect to it, and even you mentioned it. It's about this breathing, that centering. A lot of people call it centering yourself. And for me, like when I took my training, this kind of stuff and journaling, I've done all that, and I teach others also. So, like actually, basically, what we are doing, we are becoming aware. We are becoming aware because we are lowering our brain frequency. It's like lowering yourself. And now different people have used different words for it. So when you're breathing, the deep breaths we take, breathe in, breathe out. Basically, you're centering yourself, and it enables this this monkeying mind of ours, as we call it. It helps to lower our brain frequency. It helps us to go to a deeper dimension, that silence thing that Carla has been mentioning. You get into your deeper dimensions, you are getting into your own connection. You're connecting with your inner self, actually, because the externals are always chaotic, but they enable you to move now inward. The moment you're lowering yourself in the sense of your brain frequency, you begin to make the connection. And I can connect with this power of now, of course, a lot of books and other things are there on this. So, what is this concept actually? When you're lowering your brain frequency to your breathing and exercising, whatever you are doing, what is happening is that you become aware, right? You're firstly becoming aware of yourself. And what happens now in that power of now thing that we're talking about is that you begin to even find creative solutions, and it's all coming from your own mind. It's all coming from your own inner self. Yeah, that dependency on the external becomes a bit less. How it happens, we've been reading about it, and we've been hearing about it through our Rishi Munis and other systems, etc. But they're all speaking about the same thing. So yes, breathing is very important. I do this every morning. I spend at least 15 minutes on this because I know the rest of the day of mine is like a roller coaster ride for me. When I'm not really aware of what I'm doing, I'm just doing it, and I do it pretty well. People say, "Yeah, she did very well," but I know that I was just doing it. It's a daily habit for me. So I spend the early morning time that I get, and maybe before I go to sleep, because that is a moment when the world is also the earth around us, nature around us is also centered. So if you can connect to that dimension, it really helps and makes your awareness go on a different level altogether. And that is the time when your creative mind comes forward. And in place of chaos, you find the harmony. In place of a problem, you have found the solution. And everything appears now great. And now that zeal comes to move forward. That's how the transformation takes place. And this has to be done on a daily basis because we are human. Challenges are going to be there. And the world is going to move towards even greater chaos. But out of this chaos, we can create the harmony. That is the good news. So this is the power
Yeah.
of now. You have to do it now.
Yeah,
We don't think about, the
there's an,
past. Yes.
yeah, there's an exercise that I was given many years ago, which was life-changing. The person that was talking to me wanted me to slow down, to manage stress, to, actually I was sent to, to her because of stress issues. And I was resistant. I will tell you, I was resistant. No, that's not going to work. No, yeah, that's just silly stuff. But she said every time, I was driving every day. So every time you're at a stoplight or a stop sign, take a moment to take 3 deep breaths. And she walked me through it with that 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. And I was like, yeah. And I was that driver that was holding onto the steering wheel and cussing out people who would cut in front of me and stuff. And one day, after about 2 weeks of doing this, really mindfully paying attention and taking those deep breaths because she told me I had to, and because she was a person of authority for me at the time, I thought I better do it, right? Well, I'm driving down the highway with my son, who was about 4 at the time. I'm driving down the highway and somebody cuts me off. And normally my son would hear me say a few words that he knew he couldn't repeat. And this time I took a deep breath and I turned it to him and I go, well, there's somebody who needs to get somewhere 5 seconds faster than us. And we both laughed. And I took a moment at that point and I became aware that, oh my, this is working. And I started to do it more because I had been so resistant, I didn't think it would make any difference. But that moment when I got my son laughing and we were laughing about something I used to scream about in the, while you're driving in the car, slow down or whatever. I was like, oh my, this is progress. And I have completely changed my world since learning that one thing. So I challenge the people watching to find something that they do every day and make that their reminder to take 3 deep breaths. And that without changing your world hugely, just that one little step will open up a whole new world. And to me, that world became more ordered, less chaotic. I was able to handle things. I always go back to what they taught us as kids. Carla, did you teach people this when you were teaching? It was movement. And they would tell us, be a tree, and then move like the willow, just be flexible. And when something comes at you, you just bend with it. And, as a kid, we thought it was just fun dancing. But in reality, it's a way of life. When something comes at you, go, woo, don't fight it, go with it. And then you can get into that rhythm and manage it. And learning to breathe was that gestalt moment for me to make those changes. And I invite everybody to try just that one step, reminding yourself to breathe every day. Whether it's like I was giving, every stop sign or stoplight, or, if you get on a bus, use that, or whatever, Raheen, you're agreeing with me again?
Yes, I am agreeing with you again.
Well, is that something that you and your friends would the word just went out of my head, that you and your friends would benefit from learning
I
to
think
breathe?
yes. it's breathing is very interesting, and I think it can change a lot of things. And I love what Carla said, because she said breathing is the only constant thing. And I started thinking about it, and I kind of like swirled away with my thoughts, and I'm like, wait, I'm sure there's another thing that's probably constant. There's nothing that's constant except breathing. I think we need to utilize that to kind of calm us down. I mean, I can get very stressful, but just like walking away from things, just going on like a nature walk, breathing in, breathing out, experiencing, I think it really helps. Rather than, just being angry about life and just be stressed and not eating properly and just, getting into habits. I think it's better to utilize simplest things like breathing to kind of get out of that cycle and create healthy habits.
And one part of that, we need to remember to do it. Sometimes we get so caught up in what's happening. I had a friend tell me something I didn't want to hear last night, mainly because he couldn't deal with it. And I got caught up in it. But when I had a moment to settle down, I realized it was something that didn't even need that. When you're tired, you don't always hear what's really being said. So a bit of silence and not reacting and responding immediately is sometimes extremely important. And people don't remember to take those moments of silence. They don't remember to go and think, what seems right to me? And when you make that decision and you realize it, then dealing with certain situations takes a whole nother turn. Shivali, did you want to say something?
Yes, I can totally relate to this. This happens with all of us, Carla. This happens like, most of the time, we've discussed this earlier, where most of us, we react. And the reaction is not that we want to react. It just happens because we are so caught up into things, and we hardly relax these days. Like Jeanne said about abroad, it's the same in India. It's the same in India. And after this 2020, uh, like everyone is like, just work, work, work. I really don't know what's happening. But the point is that let's accept it. This is a part of the human revolution. I call it the human revolution. This is a part of it. And there is hope always, because you may use various tools. Some use meditation, some use, the centering exercises, breathing, yoga, whatever you're doing. These are just various tools to make you aware. And that power lies within you, within me, within us. And in Buddhism, like I follow Nichiren Buddhism. So Sensei and others have clearly pointed out that the seed of Buddha is already there. You are the Buddha. Buddha is not some god from external sources. You and I, we are all Buddhas, and we have come here with a purpose, with a mission. And as souls, we can understand this. And the moment we become aware of who we are, there's just harmony. And then you continue with determination, with courage, with faith, with trust, not in some external, but with yourself, that I already have that potential. So all this other tools that we are using for journaling, I've done a lot of journaling and I've done a lot of paper burning. Jeanne, I've done so much of paper burning, you can't imagine. And I would, even do it for my friends. And I would tell them, I say, see, the color of the flame was also different. And it was like magic happening. But at the end of it, there was a calmness, because you are actually basically becoming of your own thoughts. You realize what is happening, that my thoughts are creating my reality. So all I have to do is to change my thoughts. How do I change my thoughts? Simply by replacing them with positive ones. As simple as that. But for that, I need to be aware of where I stand. Then only I can make that change. So everything is okay. Everything is fine.
Yeah, and we can make the changes with, every decision we make. We make hundreds of decisions every day. Do I get up? Do I hit the snooze? Do I drink coffee? Do I drink tea? Do I wear this shirt? Do I wear that shirt? We make hundreds and thousands of decisions, but for every decision we make, there's a moment. There's the stimulus and there's the response. And when we're aware, we know we can pick a positive or a negative. And it's in that stimulus or response, you get to choose heaven or hell. Do I react emotionally to what this person just said to me and, really let them have it because it would make me feel so good? Or do I take a step back and say, I hear you, I want to respond, but give me a second? So one is a much more thoughtful way, it's more deliberate way versus the emotional react. So although I like, react is a good word in many cases, in this case, it's the negative. React is typically emotional, shoot from the hip, not well thought out. And responding deliberately is more thoughtful. And we can do that in the span of that breath. I actually teach people in the span of that breath that you take, that you can figure out what you want to say, why is it important to them, and what do you want them to do? And then you become more effective as a communicator, as a speaker. But literally, you can change your life in that nanosecond of time between the stimulus and the response. But when people think about it, they go like, what? Wait, no, I just made that decision. Yes, you did. But what I'm asking you is to pay attention to when you made the decision. And it's amazing when you're aware of that. Again, how you can move from chaos to order. Well, you use the word magic, Shivali. It's magic. But that's the magic we have.
But everything is magic, and the words we use are magic. If we use words that are not so happy, our world becomes unhappy. If we use words that bring joy, we create that in our lives. The Hebrew word abracadabra means, I don't have the exact meaning in front of me, is what you speak, you say becomes.
Yeah.
And, just like abracadabra and the magician pulls out the rabbit, everything we speak is what we create. Raheen?
I know I was just listening to what you said, and abracadabra is a Hebrew word. I thought it was a made up thing, so I really didn't know that. So yeah, that is what I was smiling and really nodding at. Wait, what? And I think so. Life is very magical. Like if you start thinking about some of the things that may have happened in your life, or just some of the moments, you'd be like, oh my God, that's so fascinating. And it's just like, whenever I would sit down and start processing just like so many things that we see on a daily basis, I think life is so beautiful. And it is only if you fully that. And thinking of the breath, right? And the whole breathing exercise Jeanne mentioned, I think right now, a lot of people, they don't even experience breathing fully. And I think so that we need to start experiencing things right from the beginning, like from breathing to tasting to witnessing sunsets and sunrises and stuff like that. So I think it's all about witnessing it and processing it and really feeling it. And only then would life seem magical to you? I think it seems magical to me. Sometimes, yeah, it would feel like, oh my God, what is this? But that is for everyone at times.
Actually, as you were talking, I went and I got the exact translation of abracadabra, and I'm going to read it. It's from the Aramaic phrase abracadabra, meaning I will create as I speak. The source is 3 Hebrew words: Ab, father; Ben, son; and Akadash, which is the Holy Spirit. It's from the Chaldean Abadadad Kadabra,
Chaldean.
meaning person like the word, perish like the word. So if we're thinking things like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, that is what we create. But if we create things like, I can do it, and we believe in ourselves, then it becomes real. And it's up to us to decide what we want in our lives. If we're looking at reality, in reality, sometimes it's saying, that can't, you're only dreaming. I remember my father once saying that to me, and I would say, yeah, I'm dreaming, but can a dream become real? I was a little girl when he said that. And now I look at my life and things that have happened, and did I really make them happen? Or did they happen on their own? Because I created them through my mind. And we create our own worlds.
Yeah, it's true. We create our own worlds. And sometimes that's mind-blowing to people. And you brought up things that your father said to you. And one of the things that I have noticed a lot lately, well, in the last 10 years since my son was a teenager and kind of grew out of it, we as parents have a very strong role in how our kids become adults and how they believe. So my dad said a lot of things to me. He used to challenge me, and I grew up believing I wasn't good enough because of the way he challenged me. And, we carry things with us through into adulthood, the way that we interpreted as we were children. I have learned that, and I have been working through that processing, as you talked about, Raheen. But one of the things that I became very aware of was, as parents, our job is to set boundaries so our kids are safe and they learn and they grow into healthy adults. Kids' job is to push that boundary so that they can be free and creative and keep moving. And therein lies a friction. And, in my case, I realized that I let the parents' words weigh more than mine. And with my son, I was more aware. So I said, honey, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I want you to know one thing. And he said, what's that? I go, you get a vote. I'm going to listen to you, but I get 5 votes. So you're going to listen to me more. And it doesn't sound fair, but at least, I was able to change how he and I work together versus how I did with my parents. I wanted to hear. I wanted him to tell me why he needed to push this boundary. And then I wanted to be able to tell him why that boundary needs to stay, And so it changed how we interacted. He grew into a really great young man because we didn't stick in that, difficult parent teenager role. And that's what we need to do inside of our heads. We need to make those things change, how we remember them. So now I know my dad challenged me. And when I hear those words, I go, okay, Dad, got the challenge. And that changes how I interpret the world. So Raheen, remember that, okay? Because you're a teenager now. Your job is to push boundaries. Their job is to keep you safe and keep those boundaries.
Yeah, the only thing I heard was push boundaries. So yeah, got it.
And
Yes,
Shivali,
knowing Raheen, I know that she does push boundaries. I had to work with her a little on that. But talking about that, that also brings back that whole idea of what we think and how we speak. We make that our world. I don't speak about violence. I have rarely seen any violence beyond violent speech. But people who have hung around guns may have another experience on violence. The way to get our minds quiet, to move through that whole thing, is by remembering to be in the moment. Remembering that, hey, this is happening right now. I need to react to right now, not what happened 5 minutes ago or what will happen 10 minutes ago. We have no idea what will happen. Raheen may use some language that I could kill her for. I doubt it, but it's something that could happen.
Raheen.
I'm looking through my mental dictionary right now.
And what are you seeing in your dictionary?
I don't see a word that you could kill me for, or actually even get quite angry for, unless like I decide to go all teenager on you or something like that. Like if I decide to like start using swear words or something, then you might get angry for that. But no, I would not do that. So no, other than that, nothing that would make you angry even. So yeah, I'm safe. I'm good.
Oh, I know. I just used your name because you were right there. But as a teenager, you do push boundaries because you're finding out who you are and what you can do. Shivali, we're going to begin ending the show. Shivali, what are you taking from this show today?
Carla. Two things I would like to say very briefly. One is, yes, times are changing. So what Jeanne said about, as a child, like I could relate to it. The way I was brought up and the relationship I shared with my parents. So when I'm dealing with my children, my relationship is slightly different because I'm giving them that. Of course, I watch also, even though they are adults. I watch them. I do, make them speak to me about things. But yes, I give them the freedom to take action, on their own also. That is one thing. And my takeaway is that once we are aware, the awareness is not enough. Once we are aware, then the action also has to be followed up. Then only things happen. So awareness leading to that proactiveness on our part, where we actively participate in our own lives. Because now we are aware, so we take the right action. Of course, right and wrong has its own interpretation once again, but not getting into that. So my takeaway today is that if I'm aware, I have become aware, the next step will be action. Then only things happen.
Okay, thank you. Raheen.
Sorry, what was the question again?
The question is, what are you taking away from this discussion today?
From this discussion today, definitely, I would want to, though I do it, but it's only when I'm stressed, is, just the breathing exercise. I think I would want to incorporate it into like my everyday things that I do, because I think it can be very beneficial to me because, I tend to, become stressed. And even when I'm not and I'm just happy, I think it's important to keep it there and keep that thing constant. So that's my takeaway of the show, and just experiencing life to the fullest.
Jeanne.
Yeah, you have some wise people on this show, Carla. Just wanted to acknowledge that. I think that I love the reminder to process things and to reflect on things, so that we can move forward in the present time. The reflection is to make sure we understand the lessons learned so that the past doesn't continually keep coming back. I mean, literally, there are times when I know I look up the sky and go, look, learn the lesson. Can we move on? But apparently you don't necessarily learn them, so you keep repeating it, right? So I think that adding that moment to process and to reflect is critical. And understanding that, as Shivali said, chaos is important. Chaos actually leads to change if we know how to manage it. And it's that change that, that's the other constant, Raheen, by the way. Breathing is the only constant, but change is also one of the only constants. If we can acknowledge that change is normal, then we won't resist it. And we can be in the present and go, oh yeah, we're changing. Oh, look at that beautiful sunset. Just because where I live, there's lots of fires, and the sunsets become spectacular because of the smoke and stuff in the air, but they're spectacularly colorful sunsets. So you have to enjoy that, even though something is going on that's not so great. So taking the time to understand chaos is needed, change is needed, lessons need to be learned, reflecting on it, and allowing yourself to be you. It's critical to be you. Carla, what are you taking away?
The importance of the moment and how we need to address the moment instead of everything that happens in the world. Because really all we have is the moment, and that's why it is called the present. Okay, people, we have been talking for about an hour, ladies, so it is time to end. I hopefully will be back on Thursday with another MindPlore. And moving forward, I should be here regularly. There may be a time in June where there will be a lack, but for the most of the time I will be here. So with that, can we say goodbye? And remember, be in the present moment. Bye, everyone.